Hello guys, this is Ben in Parts here, back at you with episode 4 of the Cryptid cast, the series where we discuss cryptids, the evidence for them, the evidence against them, and the fascinating tales around them. And today we are going to discuss the interesting flying creature from Papua New Guinea known as the Ropen. The Ropen's name actually means demon flyer, and it's commonly seen around New Guinea Island, where it's most often seen and encountered. Now, the Ropen is fascinating for so many ways because not only is it said to be like a pterosaur, but it's said to produce a light from its tail as it flies, allegedly to attract fish. And so when it flies across the ocean at night and over rivers, it lures them to the surface and eats them. Thus the Ropen is not only a hunting, flying alleged pterosaur, but it's believed to be nocturnal, and also, fascinatingly, is clearly bioluminescent. As for the species of pterosaur it's said to be, some say it sounds a lot like a Rhamphorhynchus, a small pterosaur with a diamond-shaped tail, which does look rather a lot like the Ropen. And also, to make it more interesting, it isn't just the locals who have reported Ropen sightings. Some Westerners have also reported them. In addition, a lot of Westerners who haven't seen the Ropen per se have frequently seen flying soft blue lights darting around the sky and the sea around the island, which they couldn't explain either, and which many subsequently believe are caused by the bioluminescent tail. As regards the wingspan, it varies greatly. Some natives and foreigners have reported the being as being around 12 feet, some people have said 100 feet across. The diet of the Ropen, as explained before, predominantly is fish, although much more sinisterly, there have been reports of the creature actually feasting on human bodies in graves. Many Papuans say that if a body isn't buried deep enough, the Ropen will come along, disinter it, and begin eating from the flesh so long as it isn't too putrefied. Some people even say it's been known to attack living humans, which is a lot more sinister, and is why some natives fear the creature. They're not absolutely terrified of it per se, but when they're talked to, allegedly, they will say that they do keep it a wide berth. But what could the Ropen be? Is it a real animal or something more spiritual and being-like? This is very interesting because most of the local folklore describes the Ropen as not a physical creature, like you and me, and as some people have claimed, but like a spirit. A shape-shifting being built differently to you and me, which has intelligence like a man, but also doesn't have form like humans do. So, many people have been describing the Ropen as a pterosaur immediately, and some locals agree that it's a physical being, but most of them describe it as spiritual. In fact, to me, it sounds so much more like a jinn than an animal. In Islamic teachings, man exists, but also jinns exist. Jinns are beings of energy, and while they have intelligence like humans, civilizations like humans, and families like humans, they are able to take fearsome forms, shapeshift, and like to live in isolation and in lonely places. And very importantly, jinns are known to haunt areas such as graveyards and to feast on bones. In other words, bodies. And they inhabit the dimension of the unseen when they're not taking a certain form or forms, which might explain the total lack of evidence for the Ropen. Think about it this way. Many cryptids, such as the gorilla, the coelacanth, the Komodo dragon, and other once undiscovered beings, were once said to be cryptids but proven to be real by real physical evidence. But there is no physical evidence for the Ropen, alleged to be prolific. So could it be that it has more of a spiritual aspect? Its name, demon flyer, seems to suggest so, and many other flying cryptids around Asia and Africa have similar demon-based names, which also seems to suggest so. However, back to the physical possibilities. There are also flying foxes in the area, and it could also be a giant bat. Giant bats belonging to the megabat species Megacoptera are the largest bats in the world, and certain species of flying foxes have wingspans of up to 152 centimetres, or 5 feet. And many people think that this could explain the Ropen because there are large flying creatures in the area, and at night they could be mistaken for a Ropen. I don't think that's the case with locals. I think they've been in the area for centuries and thousands of years. They would know what they were talking about. But you could argue that certain foreign Ropen sightings account for it. And in fact, the largest microbat is the tropical American false vampire, Vampirum spectrum, with a wingspan of up to 1 metre, 40 feet. It's carnivorous, it eats birds and small mammals, it drains blood. Is it a stretch to see that a bat like that could maybe feast on fresh corpses if it manages to dig them up or disinter them? I'm not sure that it is. The species occurs throughout Veracruz in Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, north and southwest Brazil, and Guianas, and it's also found on Trinidad, which has a similar climate to New Guinea. So it's not a huge stretch to say that these could be a similar species. And also, the reason it could be some kind of giant bat is that there are other bat-like cryptids reported that are a bit like the Ropen. The Olitiao is a cryptid giant bat reported from the Asumbo Mountains of Cameroon, and it's best known from a sighting made by Ivan T. Sanderson and Gerald Russell. Sanderson described the Olitiao, which he only saw briefly, as entirely black and about the size of an eagle, with a semicircle of pointed white teeth which he described as about their own width apart from each other, and he described the teeth as chattering. It allegedly appeared to him and Gerald Russell while they were wading through a small river in the Asumbo Mountains in the north of Mamfe, after they stopped to retrieve a hammerhead bat they'd shot. Sanderson claimed he'd stepped on something that moved, possibly a tortoise, and lost his balance, and then Russell pointed out something to him. He would claim that he instantly ducked under the water because coming straight at him only a few feet above it was a black thing the size of an eagle, that he only caught a glimpse of its face, yet he saw that the lower jaw hung open and it had a semicircle of pointed white teeth, and that when he emerged it was gone. His friend George shot a few times at it, and then soon after it came back, hurtling down the river with its teeth chattering, emitting a hissing sound, and it had big black Dracula-like wings. And the animal once more soared over them and was then swallowed up by the night. When they returned to camp, the local hunters told him they had seen the Olitiao, a very feared local creature indeed, and that the other hunters then actually fled from the camp the following day. And Sanderson later claimed to have a second sighting in which the creature was actually shot at. Interestingly here, Olitiao is an Ipulo word, and is possibly a translation of Ole Ntia, cloven or forked, which is the name of a dance mask with horns that is used to represent a demon, linking back to the potential spiritual dimension mentioned of the Ropen before, which to me does suggest a commonality here. So it seems like not only are there multiple reports all around Africa, Asia and other places of giant bats and pterosaur-like creatures, not only are there reports that some of them are clearly flesh and blood, but also some of them seem to have a common link to the spiritual world. So it's very fascinating. Some people place them in one world, some people place them in another, and there have not just been sightings by locals throughout different continents, but also by foreigners. So what do you lot think? Do you think that this creature is plausible? Do you think it's soon to be discovered? Do you think that it might never be discovered? I mean, the coelacanth was widely thought to be extinct until it was dredged up off of South Africa in 1938 and proven to exist. And even though there are only a tiny number of them out there, they are still widespread in the areas that they're in. So if they can discover the coelacanth after 65 million years, surely maybe if it's flesh and blood, they can find the Ropen. If it's not flesh and blood, I can understand why it might be harder. But let's see, I do hope we'll receive some updates. If anyone out there has any sightings, any experiences, any encounters, please post them in my comment section below. I will read them out as stories. I will shout them out in the next videos. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.